I had to get my camels back. More sickening realities were dawning on me. I wasn't on a road or a track. I was in the middle of the bush, several 100 kilometres from the nearest town. No one knew where I was, and everything I needed to survive was strapped to my camels. Why did I put the sat phone, emergency beacon, and navigational equipment into saddlebags? I wasn't even carrying any water. It was all on my camels. Here, water was the most vital element for survival. I was walking across the driest inhabited continent on Earth, where many explorers had perished due to lack of water. Trying to keep my footing on the uneven ground, I kept losing sight of the camels as they disappeared up and over a rise or down a dry creek bed. I paused just long enough to locate their direction by the sound of the water jerrycan racks smashing against Mac's saddle. I noticed small pools of water in the shallow indents of the rocks I was leaping over, short-lived traces of light rain the previous day. My mind a whir, I tried to remember landmarks around these pools in case I lost the camels and needed to drink from them to survive. I knew, however, that with the day heating up, the water would evaporate in a matter of hours. I crested a small hill and spotted the camels on an exposed section of sloping rock. They had slowed to a jog because of the hard and uneven ground. This was my chance. I raced towards them, feeling for my pocket knife, the one survival item that remained in my possession. I flipped it open, clinging to the little tool like a lifeline. If I just caught up with the last two camels, I could cut the rope that joined them. Clayton's eyes were wide with terror, white foam seeping from his mouth. As I drew even and thrust the tip of the knife out for the rope, Clayton was jerked forward by the others, his front legs knocking me to the ground. With my face in the dirt, I saw a scramble of long camel legs running off again. My camels, wild and terrified, would not stop. But without them, I had nothing, was nothing. So there was nothing for it but to keep on running. Part 1. Casting Off. Chapter 1. The Beginning of the End. Shark Bay to Carbler Homestead, 15 kilometres. The Indian Ocean. I stood with my ankles in the shallows, awestruck. The water was the turquoise blue you see in travel photos advertising tropical islands, so clear you can see right through to the white sand below. But instead of palm trees lining the shoreline of this paradise, here the rich red dirt of Australia's arid interior ran down to the sand. It was nothing like the east coast of Australia, where I grew up. It was new for the camels too. They had never seen the ocean before. But while I stood mesmerised, they looked out on the wide blue waters with complete indifference, the magic clearly lost on them. They had no idea what this moment meant. We had finally reached the starting line of our huge adventure. I had made it to Shark Bay, the westernmost point of the west coast of Australia, and was planning to walk with my 5 camel companions all the way to Byron Bay, the most easterly point of the country, a distance of 4,000 kilometres as the crow flies, and probably about 5,000 kilometres by the time I zigzagged a bit along the way. This shoreline represented the start of my odyssey, but it also represented the end of years of planning that had consumed my entire being. It had taken 4 years to learn how to work with the 5 large animals that stood behind me, to feel confident enough to attempt a journey of my own with them. I had been lucky to meet a diverse mix of talented camel handlers around Australia and the world who inspired and shared with me their knowledge. At Uluru, a year before I set off for my trip, I was able to obtain my own camels, train them, and learn the craft of making my own saddles. Amid the heartbreak of a relationship breakup, the final year at Uluru had been a never-ending list of to-dos, with so much equipment to be bought. On 10-hour round trips to Alice Springs, I would anguish over an inordinate amount of small decisions in the aisles of Bunnings, such as which length of tie-downs would be the best for strapping food boxes to my camels. A mountain of paperwork came with applying for a firearms license, and then more paperwork when it came to buying the rifles, a powerful .308 and a .22.